that late afternoon. I was looking for something to do. Going into an old saloon, ordered myself a shot of booze. Bartender bought a shot of whiskey. Says the room was getting frisky. I think it might be risky, and thought about it. And on that night, the place was filled with clouds of smoke. I don't care what that though. On the bar of the lines of coke. I didn't have anywhere else to go. At the table they were playing poker. They were drunk and I felt sober. Sure enough when the game was over, some were rich and some were broker. Just as I realized the place was a brothel, the card game at the table turned hostile. One of the games was broke up the bottle, then they got into a squabble. The hands went here for the guns. Two shots went up when it was done. Two outlaws took up on the room, really fine. The bartender stood behind the bar. His moon shining a mason jar. The man walked in wearing a star, he sparked a match with a cigar. But the moment he walked through the door, the corpse was still on the floor. He looked around to see if there were more. That's when the rain started to war. Tumbleweeds were rolling down the street. Spurs around his feet. I could see he was back in heat. We went upstairs into a suite. A couple more shots rang out. Then I heard a young girl shout. I wondered what it was all about. She ran downstairs and began to pout. She tried to hide from the homicide until she was horrified. She went like this and nose outside. She didn't good eyed. Something from the lightning blade. She should go out there. She slipped down the stove and began to steer. She went under the table and little run away. The cards were still on the table. The horses were chilling at the stable. Back in the west, they didn't have cable. All they had was thunder. The piano player was playing ragtime to be new committed to crime. When the second baseman stopped on a dime, all I heard was the winter of the chimes. The man with the star walked to the bar. He told the bartender to tell him who was in charge. The bartender said, "Can I see you what?" The star said, "I'm sheriff of these parts." And the bartender pointed at me. The sheriff seemed like he had to agree. He looked at me like he was angry. He said, "You're pimping my girl. She's on the floor too." That was when I started to blink. I don't know what I was trying to think. The bartender poisoned my drink. Felt like a ship that started to sink. When I woke up, I was in a jail cell. I thought I'd been sent to hell. I hate when I fell. One of the deputies might have rung my bell. The judge sentenced me to be hung for pimping a girl who was too young. Did be done in 901. I knew that I would have to run. I thought I was having a bad dream. So sure wanted to scream. I was losing self-esteem. I thought I had no one on my tank. When they dragged me to the gallows tree, I tried to flee, but I couldn't break free. It wasn't where I wanted to be. I tried to tell them I wasn't guilty. As I tried to noose around my neck to ask if I had any last request before I'd fall down to my death and breathe my final mortal breath. Crowd of people stood and watched. At the moment I got dropped, the hanging plans all got botched. A hickory ran didn't stop. Somebody had knocked the rope. That's the reason that it broke. I was running down the road, lucky that I hadn't croaked. The sheriff couldn't gun me down. There were too many people around. They were about to shoot through the crowd. So I ran through was about to land. I found the first house I saw. No way from the law over the law. I didn't have the chance to draw. I kept riding until I reached Omaha. I went into the general store. There was a wooden Indian next to the door. I don't know what I went in there for, but I knew I had to get ready for war. I left for a gun, but it went up for sale. The place was quiet and the air was stale. The sheriff's men were hot on my tail. They tracked my horse right down the track. It was almost 7 o'clock when I reached and grabbed the tomahawk. It was cold, the sky was dark. I could hear the bloodhounds bark. The situation was getting dire. Looked like we were getting tired. The sheriff's posse set the place on fire. That was when I started to perspire. Blood was rushing through my veins. Sweat was dripping down my face. But another place was the old flames. I knew I'd have to make an escape. It seemed like there was no way to lose. The chances didn't seem very good. It wasn't what anyone should. I ran the store as fast as I could. Holding the hatchet in my hand, I couldn't believe how fast I ran. It's like a black man for the Ku Klux Klan. Everyone was one land. Then I came and they shot. Just as I ran through the slot, I rolled and chopped the man's head off. And then I threw the tomahawk. As I flew through the air, I refused to yield. I used his body as a shield. Totally as gun looked through the field, trying to keep myself concealed. As the axe cut off the man's head, I filled the man's head. Then all 4 of them dead. They all fell down on the ground and bled. It all happened before you knew it. Seemed like there was nothing to it. Everything I had to get me through it. Everything I had to do was I had to do it. There were 4 more bullets in the gun as we battled in the morning sun. The sheriff's men went out one by one, killed them all, and there were none. It was only me and the sheriff then. Ever since I killed 7 of his men. It was getting intense from all the suspense. The gun smoke in the air was dense. I checked to see if I had ammunition. I seen him moving to a new position. He found his pistol like he was on a mission. I heard multiple whistles, he kept missing. He was too drunk to shoot. As he reloaded, I made my move. He went for the gun in his boot, but he was too slow and I was too smooth. I put my gun up to his head. His eyes turned watery and red. I cocked the pistol and I said, "Make one move and you'll be dead." I told him I didn't know his daughter, as I held on to the revolver. I pointed the gun at her father. The sun was getting harder. I could see the look in his eyes. The man seemed like he was surprised. Because then he finally recognized. He knew somebody was telling lies. He stood there in the shining sun. I could tell that he was stunned. I thought he would try to run until he wasn't having fun. Put my gun up to his ear, the man shook trembling and feed. He began to cry tears. The bartender was drawing me. I heard a shot go up behind me. I thought for sure that it would find me. I turned around, the sun was shining. The temperature just kept on climbing. The shot was loud when I turned around. I saw the bartender falling down. I seen the man hit the ground. I could see him start to frown. was where the shot came from behind him that the piano player had come to find him. When the building exploded, everything went silent. I had a feeling things were gonna get violent. The piano player shot the bartender in the back. The bartender turned and shot him back. Just as I heard the second gun crack, both men were dead in their tracks. When he tried to call my bluff on the street there in the dust, I guess the sheriff thought he'd had enough. Maybe he'd had too much. Every time I was facing him, continued to increase. The fire flickered in the breeze, the wind was blowing through that train. I kicked the sheriff's gun out of his hand. The woman landed in the sand. He didn't understand. Things don't always go out of the plan. I knocked him out in the heat, tied him up in the street. Mr. Rolling Tumbleweeds, I was moving out the sound of the spray. He didn't even know my name, but I thought it was insane. Found me in the house of ill fine, I was sure I'd have to explain. He was the only chance I had moving on that bed. And I knew the girl would be mad if she found out I killed the dead. When he woke up, his eyes were glazed. When he heard the story, he was amazed. He looked confused and he was dazed, sitting there as the building blazed. First he was a little skeptic, and the sheriff began to accept it. But it was unexpected. It wasn't what was expected. He looked confused, went off for the truce. The bomb inside his mind was diffused. I used a knife to get the sheriff loose, because then the temperature reduced. The stars came out as the sun went down. We got on the horses and rode back to town. When we got there, there wasn't anyone around. The girl wasn't anywhere to be found. She was bound to the tracks of the train, tied down, there was no time to explain. She was held down there by chains, and thoughts were running through my brain. I began to fear her existence. I could hear the train coming in the distance. She was giving an assistance. It's time for me to use resistance. I got on my horse and my gun was loaded. I don't remember how long I rode it. It was so quick it was like I floated. I don't have to stop the locomotive. When I got up to the caboose, there was no other choice but to shoot. So I hopped off the horse and I flew. I'm gonna red like blue. As the train rolled down the track, I made my way to the front from the back. All the way up under the cab where I ducked under the engineer's jam. Then I reached and grabbed a brake. The train slowed down and started to shake. I wondered how long it would take just as the train reached the lake. The girl tried to escape in fears, the train kept drawing near. It was then she had dropped the engineer while the girl sobbed a tear. She thought for sure she would die. She knew the reason why. As a buzzer flew through the sky, the sun was shining bright in her eyes. It was then that the wind started blowing. The train kept going, but it was still slowing. The sun was out, the grass was growing, and all of a sudden, it started snowing. As the wheels made their last rotation, we tried to assess the situation. About a half a mile from the station, the train had stopped in the precipitation. Soot was flying everywhere, from the smokestack into the air. We looked to see if she was still there. She let out a yelp in despair. We were happy to know the girl had survived. Our spirits felt better than we were revived. She was lucky to be alive as we got off train number 5.